Empire, what is going down? Welcome back to another video. So I wanted to come on here and talk about the Brock Purdy haters out there, and people talking about him being assistant quarterback and that he's nothing in any other offense in the entire NFL. Here's the thing with that. I definitely think, look, when Brock Purdy was coming out of college, nobody had their eyes on him, clearly. That's hence to why he went, at the Mr. Irrelevant pick or the last pick in the NFL draft. But I've been seeing a lot of people mentioning, especially last week when Brock Purdy didn't have his best game against the Cleveland Browns. I've been seeing a lot of people mentioning and saying how Brock Purdy is nothing without Debo and McCaffrey and that he can't make plays without them guys being in the offense. This and that and this and that. Look, I think with Brock Purdy, to be honest, when Trey Lance went down last year, and then Jimmy Garoppolo went down last year, I would have been the first to tell you I didn't think Brock Purdy was going to be able to take the team where he took the team last year all the way to the NFC Championship. So that's number one. I think number two is you look at the 49ers offense, and it's so quarterback friendly. The quarterbacks in the offense are not asked to do a whole lot whatsoever. We get that, right? I mean, you have superstar playmakers through in and through out on the offense. Debo, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings, I'll add in there. Ronnie Bell has been a great playmaker for the 49ers this year. It's his rookie year, too, out of Michigan. But either way, he's surrounded by a phenomenal offense, and that's not even counting Kyle Shanahan being a genius play caller. But I think the fact I'm trying to make here is no matter what, at the end of the day, if you take away the top targets from all the top quarterbacks ever, you look at Tom Brady, he had a top 5 coach of all time in Bill Belichick. He had Rob Gronkowski, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola. That's not even counting Randy Moss that he had, earlier on. And then you look at guys like Justin Herbert. He's surrounded by guys like Mike Williams, Gerald Everett, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Joshua Palmer. Two very similar offenses. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles, for instance. Jaylen Herz has thrown 12 touchdowns this season to 7 interceptions. In his receiving corps, Dallas Goedert. He's got DeAndre Swift for his running back, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. So if you take away everybody's top options, right? If you take away everybody's top weapons in their respected offense, they're not as good. I think that you can probably say that for anybody. There's probably one or two guys in the entire NFL, probably one guy in the entire NFL that you could take away his top targets and he would probably still perform at a high level. And it's probably Patrick Mahomes and the league of his own when it comes to that. And there's probably nobody else that really follows suit with that. Tom Brady obviously has made average wide receivers at best work in New England with Chris Hogan and when some of his New England Patriots wide receivers went down. But really, in all reality, the fact of the matter is if you take away anybody's top weapons in their offense, in their respected offense, they're not going to be as good. You look at Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has honestly had an average season. Maybe some could argue that he's had an above average season. And his top targets have been Jerry Jeudy, who's been nothing but underwhelming with the Denver Broncos. He's got Cortland Sutton. Sutton's probably been underwhelming as well. But the fact of the matter is there's guys on every offense that you could take away from the quarterback. And that quarterback is not going to perform at a high level. And here's the thing. Brock Purdy had a bad game last week. The Browns defense, and I said this in my post-game thoughts video last week, the Browns defense is legit. They have playmakers galore all on all around that defense. Their defense flies around. They move some of their defensive backs to hybrid linebackers so that they can run from side to side on the field much quicker. Jim Schwartz has done an amazing job with the Cleveland Browns in their defense. But either way, I mean, Brock Purdy struggled against a statistically ranked top 2, top 1 defense in the entire NFL. And the same with Jaylen Herz as well. He threw 3 interceptions last week in New York. Robert Saleh's done an amazing job over there with that defense. That defense flies around just like Cleveland. They have a great defensive line just like Cleveland. Great safeties to take away shit over the top. Look, the fact of the matter is Brock Purdy had probably his worst game as a 49er. I know when we played the LA Rams earlier in the year, Brock Purdy didn't have a great game either. But either way, Brock Purdy played a seemingly down game, and he still put the 49ers in a position on that last drive for them to win the football game. So, yeah, Brock Purdy played well, but he also put his team in a position to win the game at the very end. And that, obviously, we know what the outcome was on that. But in a way, too, you can always go back and say, well, yeah, like the 49ers didn't play good enough to where Cleveland was able to, compete with them all game long. Yes, absolutely, you could argue that. But the fact is, the 49ers didn't play good football whatsoever, and Brock Purdy didn't play well. I mean, it always starts with the quarterback, right? Brock Purdy had a fumble that was recovered by the 49ers, but the ball was slippery in the first half, and he lost the grip of the ball, fumbled. Look, I'm kind of moved on from the game. I know it kind of sounds like I'm not because I continue to talk about it, but I'm just giving examples of what, Brock Purdy was able to do in last week's game. I mean, yeah, he didn't play his best game, but you also have to look at him not playing his best game as you have to look at the positives when it comes to that. Brock Purdy said that in his post-game conference. Sometimes when you have bad games, you also have to look at the positives and see what you did right. So, like I said, I think with Brock Purdy, the system quarterback talk I've been hearing, almost everybody in the NFL is a system quarterback. You take away their top weapons on offense, that quarterback is not nearly as good. And like I said, I mean, even the Jaylen Herz is a prime example. You take away Jaylen Hertz's top weapons, the same goes for a guy like Jaylen Herz, but Jaylen Herz has had his top weapons all season long, and I know Eagles fans out there are going to like this, but Jaylen Herz has been pretty bad this season. 12 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He's arguably on track for 20 interceptions if you do the math correctly. Rounded up, I believe it's like 19.8 total interceptions Jaylen Herz will throw if he keeps this pace up. Typically, people round that number up, and that number becomes 20. But either way, Jaylen Herz, I believe, had 7 interceptions last season, and through 6 games of the NFL season up until this point, Jaylen Herz has thrown 7 interceptions, which has tied his mark for last season for a full season. So, and I like Jaylen Herz. I think he's a great quarterback. I liked him in college. When he was with Bama, he had to overcome adversity, and he entered the transfer portal. Went to Oklahoma, played at a high level at Oklahoma, and got with Philly. Had an off year in Philly his first year starting. They did go to the wild card round against the Tampa Bay Bucks, but the Tampa Bay Bucks that year obviously won the Super Bowl and kicked the Philadelphia Eagles out. But either way, Jaylen Herz is a great quarterback. I'm not trying to take anything away from Jaylen Herz, but what I'm saying is that you can take away anybody's top weapons, and they're probably not going to be as good. So for people saying Brock Purdy's not good without Brandon Ayuk or George Kittle or Deebo Samuel, I think it's all bullshit. I mean, you gotta, and here's the thing, I think I've already said this, but I wasn't the biggest fan of Brock Purdy when he started for the 49ers. To be honest, I thought Brock Purdy showed a lot. I thought it was hard for anybody to look at Brock Purdy after what he did last season and not give him the starting job. Like, did Brock Purdy deserve the starting job after what he did last season? Absolutely, that's without a doubt. But at the same time, we have seen this story before with Jimmy Garoppolo, and obviously Brock Purdy has played more games than Jimmy Garoppolo before he took over a starting job. Jimmy Garoppolo had 5 starts before signing a $137 million contract extension with the 49ers. So Brock Purdy deserved to get that starting job after what he did, with beating all these teams, going on a massive run into the playoffs. Brock Purdy against Seattle last year in the divisional round played out of his mind. So Brock Purdy deserved the starting job. I'm not saying he didn't. But I was more skeptical about seeing that situation before with Jimmy Garoppolo. And with what the 49ers gave up for Trey Lance, I really didn't want to see the 49ers not continue to roll with Trey Lance. But no matter what, that's why I'm not an NFL coach. That's why, we have to let Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, make those decisions and support them in doing so. And that's what I did, and I like Brock Purdy. I think he's a great quarterback. He's been perfect for the 49ers. His stats this season are astronomical. He's got top 3 quarterback stats in the entire NFL. He leads the NFL in passer rating. So Brock Purdy's having a great year, and I love Brock Purdy. I wouldn't sit up here and say that I don't want to see him as the 49ers' future, this and that. The guy plays with moxie. He plays with poise. The moxie that he does have for being a last pick in the NFL draft is slim to none. That team obviously plays for him. The team obviously loves him. So, obviously, Brock Purdy deserves that 49ers starting quarterback job. And I do believe, knowing Kyle Shanahan and knowing the offense and knowing how traditional quarterbacks have worked in this respected offense, Brock Purdy will be our quarterback for a long time, obviously. I think that's the hope, of course. Hopefully he can stay healthy and have a healthy career and whatnot. But Brock Purdy's only going to continue to get better. He's not your average prototype build by any means. He's not the 6'6", 6'5", Justin Herbert, Josh Allen's of the world. But Brock Purdy is good enough, and he's going to get the job done. He's going to make the throws that you want him to make. And I think that's the biggest thing with Brock Purdy. But, like I said, to the Brock Purdy haters out there that think he's a system quarterback, think that he can't do nothing without Debo and all his weapons and whatnot, you have to look at other quarterbacks in the NFL. And, I mean, if you're saying the same with Brock Purdy, who's leading the NFL in passer rating, you have to say the same with guys like Jaylen Herz. And then, obviously, looking back at what Tom Brady did, and take away Belichick and take away Amendola and Edelman and Gronk. Those guys aren't as good. Now, Tom Brady may be an exception considering his Super Bowl winnings and whatnot, but would he have really won a Super Bowl without Belichick, Gronk, Edelman, Moss, and all them guys? That's up for debate. I'm not going to sit there and say that he would have or he wouldn't have, but like I said, the point is, you can say that for any quarterback in the entire NFL. Brock Purdy has had an amazing season. He's going to continue to do great things in this offense. He's set up for nothing but success. And as long as he can make the layups that Kyle Shanahan asked him to do, it's going to work out completely fine. And that's exactly what he's doing. And Brock Purdy has had, people say he can't throw a deep ball either. Brock Purdy has thrown more deep balls this year than I think I've seen Jimmy Garoppolo throw in the last 2 years. So, yeah, I mean, Brock Purdy obviously does what he needs to do in this offense to have success. And like I said, I think he's going to continue to have success in this offense. But yeah, I just want to come on here and talk about that because the Brock Purdy hatred is getting real. And I'm not saying I'm the biggest and I think the highliest of Brock Purdy, or I think so highly of Brock Purdy that I think he's going to go down as one of the greats. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I think Brock Purdy's good enough. He's playing like an above-average quarterback. I think all in all, his ceiling is limited, of course, but that doesn't mean he can't be a great quarterback in the NFL. So, yeah, to all the Brock Purdy haters out there, look at other quarterbacks in the NFL, take away their top options, and think to yourself, really, are they going to still put up the same amount of stats as they're going to? And obviously, you take away I don't know, DeAndre Swift and A.J. Brown. Are the Eagles, is Jaylen Herz still going to have a 4-touchdown to 0 interception game? Probably not. He's probably going to struggle. So, yeah, the talk with Brock Purdy being assistant quarterback and him, not being anything without Debo and Ayuk and the top weapons in this offense, say that